you're watching this video, you probably already saw Girls in Panzer, and you can skip to the timestamp, but if not, I'll give a spoiler for introduction of this wonderful series. I want you to imagine an aircraft carrier. Now, imagine there's an entire city on this aircraft carrier. In that city, we have Ooarai Girls Academy. In this school, we have a tank operation club. School tank clubs fight in tournaments where they eliminate each other's tanks for sport, and nobody gets hurt somehow. If you have not seen it, and are a tank fan, I highly recommend it for the tank combat. Today we'll be going on a deep dive into the Panzerkampfwagen IV Ausführung D from Girls in Panzer, but we'll shorten it to Panzer IV D. The way our main character Miho's Panzer IV gets upgraded over time is ridiculous, but that's a video for another day. Even for the tank nerds, stick around to the end. I have some interesting analyses and visual comparisons. Finding and collecting sources and images of the Panzer IV D was actually very difficult since there is so little media of the inside. Anyways, if you think I got anything wrong or found information I missed, feel free to comment corrections and I'll look into them. As a warning, there may be visual spoilers for the Girls in Panzer series, first movie, and Anzio special. Let's get started. I will compare the interiors in just a moment. Skip ahead if you already know how to identify Panzer IV variants or if you just think this stuff is boring. So, let's begin with the identification. So here we see a Panzer IV Ausf D. How can we tell? We can glance at it and already see it's an early production variant by the cupola, cannon, 2 backup emergency sights, and this recessed front plate. I'll explain this all later. So, we've narrowed it down to the early variants. Is it the Ausf A, B, C, D, or E? First, look at the whole MG. It's square, so we've narrowed it down to the D or E variant. Why? The A variant has a circular MG port. The B and C variant have a pistol port with no whole MG. The F variants and later have a circular design as well, but they look different and we've already narrowed it down to the early variants. And another indicator is that the C has this recessed mantlet, and the D has this clean plate mantlet. Now, is it the D or the E? Let's look at the driver port. It's subtle, but the D variant is like 2 rectangles, compared to the E, where the viewport now has a different appearance and is a single rotating piece. In either case, both are able to shut the viewports in combat conditions, like so. So, if they close the port, how would the driver see? I'll explain that when we get to the driver interior section. Okay, we know it's the Panzer IV D variant. Let's look at visual details, and it is brilliant how attentive to detail they were with the Panzer IV D model exterior. But we'll look at the interior first, since there are far fewer sources, which I think makes it far more interesting. The interior is not as accurate as the exterior, but it's mostly fine. First, let's look at the commander position. Externally, we see a cupola that was unique to the Panzer IV B, C, and D variant. It's sort of like concentric rings. Let me show you. We have the first layer inside, we have a second layer which actually slides up and down to cover the viewport if necessary, and we have the third layer which sandwiches the second layer. Now, here's a drawing to show more clearly what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, look at that. Unfortunately, interior video and pictures of the Panzer IV D are extremely rare as they only made 230 units of the D variant and only 3 survive today. This is the best picture we have thanks to the Australian Armour and Artillery Museum. Check them out. So, now that we can see this, unfortunately we have our first miss from Girls in Panzer. The inside view shows these handles and pads between each viewing port. Compare that to the real deal and we can see the real Panzer IV D cupola interior has many cogs between ports that serve to open and shut each viewport. What we actually see in Girls in Panzer is a later variant of the internal vision port that was used in the Panzer IV H with the leather pads and these perforated metal bits the handle is connected to. Let's move down to the seat now. The seat is accurate even with the ridiculous interior decorations the Anglerfish Team put there. The commander's seat is this pool ladder looking thing, which is accurate. From what I found, this little bar in the back is accurate as well. So, despite that win at the end, the commander interior only half passes the realism test. On the turret more generally, we have these things in the back, and I'll be honest here, I found nothing on these guys. The only thing I know is that this was eliminated from the Panzer IV onward. For example, compare this Panzer IV D to this Panzer IV J. So, let's look at the inside. We have handles and what might be a hole. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe these may be stoppers covering pistol ports. My only reference is this single sentence from Tank Encyclopedia, albeit these guys have good sources. They say for the Panzer IV J, quote, After May 1944, the Maschinenpistolenstüppen, or gun ports, on the back of the turret were removed. Now, the only thing the crew of the Panzer IV can interact with on the rear of the turret are these two things. Like I said, I'm not sure, but this is my best guess. Pistol ports. Or maybe it was for some esoteric purpose lost to time. The turret rear gets in, I don't know. If you're liking the video so far, please, Maschinenpistolenstüppen, that like button. Now, let's look at the driver position. We can see the tillers, gas, brakes, clutch, and gear change. This is all correct, as we can see they are used like so. They're even used correctly. Wow, look at Mako do a gear change. In this one, she's letting off the brake and pressing the clutch, then moving the gear shift. Very cool. Here we can see she uses the tillers. Mako lets off the left track and adds power to the right track, which we can see the motion translated right after. That's great. The attention to detail is beautiful. By the way, I just want to say the brake and transmission is visible here, even with these valve things on it too. We can also see the driver information panel that tells us useful information. The appearance is basically one-to-one, it's exactly the same. We have the RPMs, pressure, fuel tank level, temperature, speed, key ignition, and start and stop button. So far so good. However, if we nitpick, the gauge readings are weird. We see they have 0 RPM on the engine, maybe 400 RPM max. Pressure looks fine, fuel tank is about half, and apparently no temperature reading. They're also going 20 kilometers per hour. We have this other gauge reading that says the RPMs are about 4,800, the pressure is 0, the tank is empty, and the engine is cold, and they're moving at 0 to 10 kilometers per hour. I'm a little confused about this. They have the dashboard perfectly accurate, the locations and sizes of the gauges are right, but then we have these nonsense readouts. I'm not really sure what this is all about. It's weird. After that, we have our next major miss from Girls in Panzer. They have taken the vision port from the later Panzer IV variants and transplanted them here. The Panzer IV D should actually have this lever and cog, which, in comparison, the Panzer IV-G vision slit is what we actually see in the show. I did actually figure out what's going on here. The show is reusing these frames, and you know what? It makes sense. I haven't heard anybody else comment on this inaccuracy, and the studio saves on drawing extra frames, so clearly it's working out for them. Here is the earlier image, and an image from later in the series. On the left we have the Panzer IV-H when Anglerfish Team upgrades their tank, and on the right we have the Panzer IV-D from the beginning of the series. Exactly the same framing. The only thing that's different is their uniforms. So this one might not be a mistake, it might be more so just cost cutting from the studio, and probably since they figured the Anglerfish team would be using the later Panzer IV variants more often, which they actually do. But the weird thing is that this is neither the driver position of the D or the H variant. What we're looking at here and what we see in the show is the driver position of the F or G variant. And we can tell because this style of latch for the driver's viewport did not appear until the F, and these two little holes for the binocular sight disappeared on the H. On a different note, they have ammo stored behind the driver, which is accurate. The driver position gets an it's alright. They got a lot of things right, but a few things are weird. We're now in the gunner position. We can see Hana there, looking in. The camera seems to be over here, and the scope looks right as well as the padding. It's even got the box with the doohickeys on it. Yeah, the doohickeys. I have no idea what it does. Like, what do I even search? Panzer IV gunner metal box thing. Which I did, by the way, I looked it up. Anyways, the thingamabobs on the doohickey. The thingamabobs on the doohickey look like the same as real life, so that's good. Another comparison from the opposite angle, we see things are largely the same. Do note, there were 0 pictures of the D variant turret interior that I could find online, so what you're seeing as the real-life comparison is actually a G variant. However, we see the layout is basically the same. A shield to block the gunner from getting in the way of the cannon, the elevation mechanism, the sight, and the square doohickey box. It's not a perfect comparison, as that's not the short 75 in there, that's the long 75mm. This is a mid-edit note. The left side is the short 75, the right side is the long 75, but the frames are the same. But it's the best I could find. The gunner position passes the realism test. Let's look at the loader position now. The first thing I want to point out is the baggie we have right there behind the cannon. This is a brass catcher. When the cannon fires, the projectile flies out of the barrel and the empty casing is automatically ejected into the baggie. We can also see in the show that there is ammo here in these 4x2 arrangements to the loader's right side. Other Panzer IV interior footage can't be 100% relied on, as the ammo arrangement was changed when moving from the short 75mm cannon to the long 75mm. The only source I have for the Panzer IV interior ammo arrangement is War Thunder, which I will show now. Not sponsored, by the way. I think Gaijin did go to each of these vehicles in person to see, and I am fairly confident in the accuracy of the ammo rack shown in-game. But what you're seeing now is actually a Panzer IV-E, since the D variant is one of the Panzer IV variants absent from the game. They have the C, E, F1, F2, G, H, and J. Couldn't they just folder it or something? Well, then again, who would be thrilled if the Panzer IV-A, B, or D got added? Not many people. Anyways, back on topic. It's fine, since the ammo racks between the short 75mm Panzer IVs are actually all the same. So, while I'm here, we'll also look at the ammo rack behind our driver Mako, and we can see that's exactly the same as what we see in War Thunder. Just for completeness sake, here is a Panzer IV-G ammo arrangement, credits on screen. The arrangement is very similar. Moving on from the ammo, we have side hatches for both loader and gunner, but they're identical, so I put these sections under loader. It looks correct. We have no high-resolution images of the turret side hatches, but we do have an image, so we can make out the features here actually. The side turret hatches on the D variant is a single one-piece door as opposed to late variants that had double doors. We can also see in the image that there is a handle on the far end, and we see the same in the show. The loader position is basically spot on from what we know, so I give it a perfect for the realism test. Here's the radio operator and also the whole machine gunner. This one is the easiest one. Here's what we're looking for. Radio, obviously. Whole machine gun, obviously. Whole side viewport. The transmission going down the middle. And ammo behind the whole machine gunner seat to the right side of the loader. Is that what we see? For the most part, yes. There's the whole machine gun. There's Miho, who at this point is currently the loader. We have the radios. We have the side viewport. And, it's this again. We have an issue with the side viewport. It's wrong. The Panzer IV-D should have 3 levers. The single lever we have here in frame is not even in the right orientation. It's vertical instead of horizontal. Another issue is that there are exactly 0 images I could find of the Panzer IV-D's radio set. So, that one's unknown. But it's in the right position at least. By the way, I want to point out how we can see the transmission. It's very nice. Despite that, the radio operator position is actually almost perfect, with 1 miss and 1 unknown. Whew, alright, that's the entire Panzer IV-D interior. For the victory lap, we'll finish with the Panzer IV-D exterior. Naturally, the detail is spot on with the exterior, mainly because there's just so many reference pictures and images from the period and today that can be used. So, let's start from the top. As established, the cupola is accurate to the Panzer IV-D with the concentric circles, or layered circles. On the top of the turret, we also have this rectangular flap, which is for ventilation, and this circular thing which is called a signal port. I found nothing on this little ear here, but it resembles a vision port for the commander, so we can, not with pure certainty, but assume it probably is. So as we move lower, we can see the 75mm L24, which was indeed used on the Panzer IV-D, as well as the A through F1. As a side tangent, the 24 part of the 75mm L24 indicates how many calibers long the cannon is. It's a weird measurement and basically works like this. Take the caliber of the cannon, multiply it with the calibers to find the barrel length. 75mm times 23.5 calibers makes the barrel 1800mm long. You can use it at a glance to tell roughly if a cannon is long or short, at least with the German cannon names. Under the cannon, we also see... What's this, a little doohickey? No, he has a name. This is called the antenna deflector, and serves to push the antenna out of the way, as the D variant had the antenna on the center right hull, shown on screen. The early Panzer IV-G variants actually did have the antenna deflectors as well on their long 75mm cannons, which honestly just looks ridiculous. Next up, we have the backup sights, these little vision ports here. We should have 2, one for the loader, one for the gunner, and that's what we have here. the Panzer IVs have backup sights on both sides until they realized the loader actually didn't need a backup sight and got rid of it in the middle of Panzer IV-G production, leaving only one sight for the gunner side. On the side of the turret, we see the side-facing vision ports as well as a hatch for each with a vision port as well. We can also see the unknown circular object in the back that I mentioned earlier. Let's move even lower. We can see the air intakes. Mid-production D variants had simplified air intakes. We can see now that these indeed match. Now, for comparison, here's an early D variant air intake. Now, let's take a look at the D variant frontally. If you guys saw the whole identification section, you should recognize this. Square machine gun port, 2 rectangles for the driver viewport, this little bit of sheet metal, and the vision holes for the driver binocular optic. We can also see the whole side viewports. You can also see the transmission axis hatches, which are flat. All of this will change with later variants, which we will be getting to in another video. Taking a look at the hull side, everything is right. 4 pairs of road wheels held by a bogie leaf spring suspension each. 4 return rollers, front sprocket, rear idler. Very good. The side is pretty plain, so we just see tools here. A jack and tools for breaking ground specifically. Let's move to the rear side and finalize our Panzer IV-D comparison. Just for clarity, I want to say, the real picture you see here is actually a Panzer IV-C, but the C and D from the rear are nearly identical. I'll point out any differences when we get there, otherwise you can just assume I'm comparing a Panzer IV-D to a Panzer IV-D. The first and most striking feature you might have noticed is this little box. You may have noticed earlier German armor and some Italian armor has this little box in the rear, and you may have wondered what it was. Well, these are smoke grenade launchers. They are called...
Nebelkerzenabwurfvorrichtung.
Translation is smoke grenade discharge device, which is a lot easier. We'll go with that. Anyways, production of the smoke grenade discharger device was discontinued in 1942. Anyways, back to comparing the backside overall. I mean, just look at them both side by side. It's nearly 1-to-1. The cupola is correct. If you remember from earlier, the turret rear has this unknown circular thing. We have the smoke dischargers, we have the exhaust. This lower part looks to be right as well. It's a little hard to see, but the engine deck is also flat on both. The only real difference is that the tail light is beside the exhaust in the real thing, and in GUP, the tail light is on the mud flap. As a reminder, the real life image here is the C variant, and that's the only real difference in the rear between the C and D variant. Overall, the Panzer IV-D is pretty close to the real deal. The only issues are with the driver and commander position, but there are so few Panzer IV-Ds in existence I can't really fault them for it. By the way, only 3 currently exist on screen now. As a side tangent, the Bovington Panzer IV-D was upgraded to the G standard, but you can still see the DNA of the D variant under all that add-on armor. The recessed front plate, the whole machine gun, flat transmission hatch, loader backup sight cover, and the cupola. And you know what? I would have preferred if Girls in Panzer did something like that. I think that would have been way cooler if they added armor plates, changed out the gun on the same tank. It's unrealistic how they switch between completely different tank models with completely different hulls, which I explained in the next part. Actually, one last thing. This is just ridiculous. They should have popped a white flag. I can excuse the drifting and the speed for plot pacing, I understand, but at least follow the rules of your own game, man. Miho's a cheater. All that being said, what's the final verdict? The Panzer IV-D from Girls in Panzer gets a 7 out of 10 for realism from me. Most of the interior seats were mostly accurate with a few oddities. Some spots were completely wrong, like the commander position. The outside is basically perfect. The Panzer IV-D is overall mostly accurate, with a few details that are off. That's going to be it for part 1 of the Panzer IV deep dive. The next and final part will be on the Panzer IV Ausf H. I'll be doing more tanks from Girls in Panzer in the future, so if you enjoyed that video, subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching. Class is dismissed.